The Krelith warship hung in orbit like a serrated blade against the stars. Its weapons arrays trained on the human colony of New Haven. For 3 cycles, the alien delegation had refused every diplomatic overture, their translator spitting threats in mechanical precision. The Krelith were apex predators from a death world where only the strong survived infancy, and they viewed humanity's pacifist colonies as easy prey. Commander Myra Halden stood in the temporary command center, her jaw tight as she watched the countdown clock. 48 hours until the Krelith opened fire. The colony's shields could withstand perhaps 10 minutes of bombardment. "Ma'am, the Krelith envoy is demanding we surrender all agricultural resources and submit to tributary status," her second officer reported. Myra rubbed her temples. The Krelith general, a scarred beast named Victor, had made it clear that humans were soft, weak, unsuitable for anything but servitude. The fact that New Haven was a civilian research colony with exactly 12 security officers and no military vessels had only reinforced his contempt. "Tell them we're still considering their terms," Myra said, buying time she didn't have. She returned to her quarters late that night, exhausted and desperate. Her small apartment in the research wing was supposed to be her sanctuary, but tonight it felt like a cage. She collapsed onto her bed without turning on the lights. Something squeaked. Myra froze. Slowly, she reached for the lamp. 2 pairs of luminous eyes stared back at her from the pillows. The creatures were each about the size of a house cat, covered in mottled scales and downy protofeathers. Their oversized heads featured the distinctive cranial ridges of the Krelith species, but instead of the adult's intimidating fangs, they had tiny milk teeth. One of them chirped and burrowed deeper into her blanket. "Oh no," Myra whispered. "Oh no. Krelith cubs." Somehow, 2 Krelith cubs had gotten onto the station and decided her bed was an excellent hiding spot. She knew enough xenobiology to understand the catastrophe unfolding. Krelith were fiercely protective of their young cubs were rare, precious, and the loss of even one could trigger blood feuds lasting generations. If these cubs were harmed, or even frightened, the warship above wouldn't stop at destroying the colony. They'd glass the entire planet. The smaller cub, its scales still soft and pale, crawled toward her hand, sniffing curiously. Its collar bore a name tag in Krelith script. She pulled up her translator, Trevik. Trevik made a questioning trill and headbutted her palm like an affectionate kitten. "Okay," Myra breathed. "Okay, nobody panic. Especially not me." She spent the next hour in careful observation. The cubs were clearly lost, probably having wandered through a maintenance shaft during some unauthorized exploration of the station. Trevik was the bolder of the 2, while his sibling remained hidden in the blanket fort they'd constructed from Myra's pillows. Her communicator buzzed. "Commander Halden, the Krelith are demanding a response within 6 hours, or they begin firing." Myra looked at the cubs. Trevik had found her old stuffed bear, a childhood comfort item she'd been too sentimental to discard, and was wrestling it with adorable ferocity, his tiny growls barely audible. An insane idea began to form. "Tell them ... double quotes," she said slowly. "Tell them we'll meet at dawn. Full diplomatic assembly. And tell them to bring General Victor." The negotiation chamber had been hastily rearranged. Where formal tables once stood, Myra had ordered cushions, soft lighting, and a bewildering array of plush toys requisitioned from the colony's recreation center. Her staff thought she'd lost her mind. General Victor materialized via hologram precisely at dawn, his massive form bristling with barely contained aggression. His officers flanked him, weapons ready. "You waste our time with..." Victor's words died as Trevik wandered into the frame, dragging Myra's stuffed bear behind him. The silence was profound. "Trevik!" A roar erupted from 3 Krelith simultaneously. The general's aggressive posture shattered into something Myra had never seen from the species: panic. Trevik chirped happily and pounced on a plush dinosaur. "Commander Halden," Victor's voice was strangled. "You have our cubs." "I found your cubs," Myra corrected gently, "last night. In my bed." They appeared to have been on an adventure. She watched the alien general's face cycle through emotions: fear, relief, embarrassment, and finally, dawning comprehension of just how badly this could have gone. "They are unharmed?" Another Krelith officer, possibly a parent, leaned into frame. "Completely fine. Trevik here has decided my stuffed bear is his mortal enemy, and his sibling is currently napping on what I believe was once my favorite sweater." Myra sat down among the cushions, letting Trevik climb onto her lap. The cub settled immediately, actually purring as she gently scratched behind his cranial ridges. Your species is predatory, she said to Victor, and you judge strength by aggression. But General, you're negotiating the fate of civilizations. Maybe it's time to ask, what does true strength look like? She held up Trevik, who yawned, displaying his baby fangs. Your cubs felt safe enough with humans to fall asleep in our beds. They wandered your mighty warship, got lost, somehow made it to our station, and instead of finding danger, they found blankets and toys. Trevik here has defeated approximately 15 plush animals in honorable combat this morning. One of the Kralith officers made a sound suspiciously like a laugh. Victor stared at his cub, now playfully biting Mira's finger with all the ferocity of a teething puppy. When he looked back at Mira, something had shifted in his eyes. The cubs went missing during our approach, he admitted. We have been searching. I believed you had taken them. Hostage. We don't take hostages, General. We make blanket forts. There's a difference. For the next hour, the most feared warriors in the sector negotiated colonial rights while watching two cubs play with humanity's apparently devastating arsenal of squeaky toys and plush animals. Trevik's favorite became a stuffed rabbit that honked when squeezed. The sound of Kralith generals trying to maintain diplomatic dignity while a cub repeatedly honked a toy was, Myra decided, the most surreal moment of her career. By afternoon, treaties were signed. New Haven would retain full autonomy, trade agreements were established, and the Kralith agreed to establish an embassy on the colony. As Victor prepared to transport his cubs home, he paused. Commander Halden, you could have weaponized our fear. Demanded anything, Myra shrugged. They're children, General. Besides, Trevik has officially annexed my stuffed bear. I expect you to honor that territorial claim. The general's mandibles twitched the Kralith equivalent of a smile. Indeed, we will send replacements. Many replacements. He hesitated. Your species is strange. Weak by our measures. Soft. Soft enough to be safe, Myra agreed. That's rather the point. As the transport beam took the cubs, Trevik looked back once, clutching his honking rabbit. He chirped a goodbye. Myra waved. By evening, the Kralith warship was gone, replaced by a diplomatic vessel. And in her quarters, Myra found a crate of Kralith plush toys, fierce warriors rendered in soft fabric, a gift from new allies. She picked one up, smiling. Sometimes the greatest victories didn't come from weapons or walls, but from the simple act of making someone feel safe enough to sleep. Even if that someone was a predator cub with an affinity for stuffed animals.